They say money can buy comfort, but not respect. It happened on a quiet night flight from London to New York, a flight that became a stage for humiliation, chaos, and poetic justice. A wealthy businessman laughed at a stranger in first class, mocked his clothes, his scars, and his smile. What he didn't know was that the man he insulted wasn't just anyone. He was the kind of man who doesn't forget, the kind of man who doesn't forgive. And when he smiles, the world burns. This is the story of how a businessman humiliated the Joker in front of everyone, and how, hours later, he paid the price, in a way no one saw coming. Before we begin, if you love dark, emotional stories that twist your mind and touch your soul, make sure to subscribe and turn on notifications, because this is just the beginning of something beautifully chaotic. The cabin lights dimmed to a warm golden hue as the flight attendants whispered through the aisles. The air was thick with the scent of expensive perfume and first-class luxury, the kind that made ordinary people feel small. But in seat 2A, a man in a wrinkled purple coat and smudged makeup sat still, eyes fixed on the reflection in his glass of champagne. His smile, faint, uncertain, trembled like it was hiding something deeper than madness. The businessman in seat 2B noticed him right away. His name was Richard Vale, a man who wore arrogance like a tailored suit, CEO of some multinational empire, always talking too loudly on the phone, always laughing too easily at himself. When he first saw the stranger beside him, messy hair, chipped nails, cheap leather shoes, he smirked. "They let anyone in first class these days," he muttered under his breath, making sure it was just loud enough to be heard. The stranger didn't respond. He simply tilted his head slightly, as though studying a specimen under glass. His eyes glimmered with quiet amusement. "Business or pleasure?" Richard asked, his tone dripping with mockery. The stranger's voice was soft, deliberate. "Depends who's asking." Richard chuckled. "Well, I'm asking. You just look a bit out of place here. Don't get me wrong, it's admirable to dream big. Maybe one day you'll afford a seat like this on your own, eh?" The flight attendant smiled awkwardly, sensing tension but saying nothing. The Joker leaned back, his smile widening, though his eyes stayed cold. "Oh, I didn't buy this seat," he said. "Someone else did." Richard laughed louder. "Figures. A charity case. Let me guess, one of those influencers trying to look rich for the internet?" But the Joker didn't flinch. Instead, he lifted his glass of champagne, swirling it slowly. "You know," he said, voice low, almost tender, "some people measure worth by money. Others measure it by fear." Richard frowned. "Fear? What are you talking about?" The Joker turned to him fully, now, his painted face catching the dim cabin light. "It's funny," he said. "I once met a man like you. Same watch, same cologne, same emptiness. He used to laugh at people too, until one day, no one laughed back." Richard shifted uncomfortably, but kept his grin. "You're one of those weird performance types, aren't you? Some kind of clown?" The word clown hit the air like a slap. For a moment, silence wrapped around them both. The Joker's smile faded, not in anger, but in sorrow. He looked down at his hands, tracing the lines of his palms. "Clown," he repeated softly. "Yeah, maybe that's what I am. The world needs one." The plane hit turbulence. The cabin shuddered. Glasses rattled. The passengers stirred. The Joker didn't move, not an inch. He just stared out the window, eyes lost somewhere beyond the clouds. Richard, sensing a small victory, laughed again. "You know what, pal? You are funny, I'll give you that. Keep practicing your act. Maybe one day you'll perform for people who actually care." The Joker turned slowly, meeting his gaze with unsettling calm. "Oh, I don't perform for crowds," he whispered. "I perform for individuals." Richard rolled his eyes, plugging in his headphones. Yeah, whatever, freak." Minutes passed. The Joker didn't speak again. He just hummed softly, a broken tune, haunting and familiar. A flight attendant approached, offering him dessert. "Chocolate cake?" she asked. He smiled politely. "No, thank you. I'm not hungry. Yet." Hours later, when the cabin lights dimmed completely and most passengers had fallen asleep, Richard stirred. He opened his eyes and found a small playing card resting on his tray. A Joker card. Its edges were worn, and on its surface, written in neat handwriting, were the words, "You humiliated a man for sport. Now, it's your turn to play." He blinked, confused. Looked around. The seat beside him, empty. The man was gone. "Excuse me," he whispered to the flight attendant passing by. "Where's the guy who was sitting here?" She paused. "Sir, I'm sorry. You've been alone the whole flight." Richard froze. "What are you talking about? He was right here, purple coat, messy hair. You saw him." The attendant frowned. "Sir, no one has been in that seat since we took off." Richard's mouth went dry. He looked down again, but the card was gone. His tray table was spotless. The champagne glass he remembered holding, empty but clean. He pressed his hand to his chest, heart racing. Maybe he was dreaming. Maybe exhaustion was playing tricks on him. He shook his head and tried to laugh it off. "Get a grip, Richard," he muttered. "You're just jet-lagged." He leaned back, closed his eyes, and that's when he heard it. A whisper right by his ear. "Still think I don't belong here?" He turned sharply. No one there. Just the faint echo of a laugh. Quiet, hollow, and distant, fading beneath the hum of the engines. The rest of the flight was silent, but Richard never slept again. The plane landed at dawn. A pale orange light spilled through the cabin windows as the city below stirred awake. Richard Vail stepped off the aircraft with a pounding head and trembling hands. He told himself it was lack of sleep, not fear, not that strange card that had appeared out of nowhere, not the whisper that still clawed at his ears. He brushed it off. He was a rational man, a powerful man. CEOs didn't get scared by bedtime stories. He walked through the terminal like he owned it, ignoring the subtle glances from flight staff. But deep inside, something felt wrong, like a shadow had followed him off the plane. Outside, his driver was waiting, a black Mercedes shining under the early morning light. "Rough flight, sir?" the driver asked. Richard forced a grin. "Just turbulence. Nothing I can't handle." As the car pulled away, he stared out the window, replaying the night in his head. The Joker's voice, calm, deliberate, echoed again. "I perform for individuals." Richard shook it off. He wasn't real, he muttered. Probably some drunk lunatic. But when he arrived at his penthouse, a shiver ran down his spine. The elevator doors opened, and sitting right there in the lobby was another Joker card. It leaned against a vase, perfectly placed, its edges singed like it had been through fire. His breath caught. He looked around. No one there. The security camera blinked above him, red light steady. "Not funny," he hissed. He picked up the card and flipped it over. This time there was a single sentence written in sharp, elegant handwriting. "You took joy in humiliation. Now joy will be taken from you." He threw the card into the trash and stormed upstairs. But he didn't notice the faint laughter echoing through the empty halls behind him. Too low to be real, too hollow to be imagined. Hours passed. Richard tried to bury himself in work, but he couldn't focus. He called his assistant, Sarah. "Listen, I need you to check the passenger list from last night's flight, seat 2A. Find out who was sitting there." "Of course, sir," she replied. "Give me a moment." He paced around the office, hands trembling slightly. Outside, clouds gathered, the sky turning gray. Sarah returned 5 minutes later, her voice hesitant. "Sir, according to the airline, seat 2A was unbooked. It was empty the entire flight." Richard froze. "That's impossible," he snapped. "I talked to him for hours." "Maybe you were mistaken, sir." He hung up. His throat felt tight. He poured himself a drink, neat whiskey, no ice, and stared at his reflection in the glass. "Get a grip," he whispered again. "You're fine." Then the lights flickered, once, twice, and then, from the speakers of his home intercom, came that same soft hum from the plane. The broken tune the Joker had been singing. The glass fell from his hand, shattering on the floor. "Who's there?" he shouted, spinning around. The hum stopped. Silence. Then the intercom crackled, and a voice whispered through the static. "Still think you're above everyone, Richard?" Richard's skin went cold. He ran to the panel, ripping the intercom wire from the wall. But the voice continued, now coming from his phone, from his television, from his laptop. Every device around him spoke in the Joker's calm, mocking tone. "You laughed at a man who did nothing to you. You mocked his scars. But tell me, Richard, what are your scars worth?" "Stop this," Richard yelled. "Who the hell are you? What do you want?" A long silence. Then, understanding. The lights went out. Total darkness swallowed the room. When they came back on, his laptop screen flickered to life on its own. A video played. Security footage from the flight. Richard leaned closer, heart pounding. There he was, seat 2B, drinking, laughing, gesturing, but the seat beside him was empty. And yet somehow, his head turned mid-conversation, as if responding to someone right beside him. He even raised his glass for a toast, alone. He stumbled backward, shaking his head. No, this isn't real. The screen glitched, and suddenly a frame appeared that shouldn't exist. The Joker's face, half shadowed, half smiling, staring directly into the camera. Words appeared beneath the image, written in white. "Reality bends for those who ignore truth." Richard slammed the laptop shut, panting. He grabbed his phone, dialing security. "Get up here. Now. Someone's hacked my systems." But before anyone could answer, a knock at the door. 3 slow taps. He froze. The city outside was silent. Another knock. He stepped closer, heart pounding. "Who is it?" No answer. He slowly opened the door and found a small white box on the floor. No one in sight. He knelt, picked it up, and opened the lid. Inside, a single item, the same purple tie the Joker had been wearing on the plane, and beneath it, another card. This one read, "Flight was only the beginning, Richard. Next, you'll meet yourself." A chill swept through him. He dropped the box, stepping back, eyes darting around his empty hallway. The door slammed shut on its own. The lights flickered again, and this time he saw his reflection in the glass window. But it wasn't just him. Behind his reflection stood the Joker, smiling. For hours, Richard Vale didn't move. He stood in front of the window, staring at the reflection that wasn't supposed to be there. The Joker's faint grin hovered behind him like a ghost from his own mind. Calm, patient, and disturbingly human. Then, with a slow blink, it was gone. Richard stumbled back, pressing a shaking hand to his chest. "You're losing it, Richard," he whispered. "You're just tired." But as he turned, he saw the box on the floor again. The purple tie, the card, the handwriting. It was all real. Sleep refused to come. Even when he closed his eyes, he saw that grin. The next morning, he did what every powerful man does when he's afraid. He tried to buy control. He called in his tech team, demanded his security staff sweep the building. "Find the source," he barked. "Someone's playing games with me." By afternoon, the head of security returned, pale-faced. "Sir, there's something you need to see." They led him to the surveillance room. Dozens of screens showed live footage of every floor, every hallway, every entrance. The man pointed at one monitor. "This was taken last night, around 3:17 a.m. Richard leaned forward. There he was, walking across his living room, talking, laughing. But he wasn't alone. Another man stood opposite him. Same purple coat, same painted grin. The Joker. He was there. On camera. "Did you see this live?" Richard asked. The guard swallowed hard. No, sir. It wasn't there before. The footage just appeared this morning. Richard's eyes darted back to the screen and then froze. The Joker on the recording turned his head slowly, locking eyes with the camera. The screen glitched, and the live feed across all monitors flickered to static. For a moment, everything went black. Then, one screen came back on. It wasn't the apartment feed, it was Richard's office. And sitting in his chair was the Joker. "Shut it down!" Richard shouted, panic breaking through his polished voice. The tech scrambled, but the power cut out completely. The room sank into darkness. A voice, soft and calm, floated through the static. "Funny thing about humiliation, Richard, it doesn't just fade. It festers. You remember the laughter, the shame, the faces watching you? You made me feel that once." Richard backed against the wall. "I didn't do anything to you. You're insane." The voice chuckled. "Maybe, but I'm the kind of insane that remembers." He ran for the door, but it wouldn't open. None of the systems worked. The building, once filled with people, now felt like a tomb. Then, from the shadows of the room, came the faint sound of shoes tapping against the floor. A rhythm, slow, deliberate, tap, tap, tap. Richard's breath hitched. "Who's there?" No answer, just the sound growing closer, and a soft hum beneath it, the same broken tune from the flight. When the lights flickered back on, the Joker stood there, in flesh and blood, inches away. Richard stumbled back, heart pounding. You're not real. I saw the footage. You're a ghost." The Joker tilted his head, eyes glinting with a strange sadness. "Ghosts are just regrets that learned to walk." "What do you want from me?" The Joker smiled faintly. "A lesson. You humiliated a stranger to feel powerful. Now I'll return the favor, but I'll do it with style." He snapped his fingers. The large screens on the wall blinked back to life. Every one of them displayed a live feed. Richard's board members, investors, employees. Hundreds of faces staring at him through video call windows. And every microphone was live. "Good morning, Richard Vale," the Joker announced cheerfully, his voice echoing through the speakers. "Let's talk about your little secrets, shall we?" Richard lunged forward, trying to shut it off. "Don't you dare!" The Joker grinned. "You like performing in front of others, don't you? You loved it when the whole plane laughed. So, let's give them a show." The screens flickered again, and files began to open on every display. Corruption ledgers, hidden accounts, confidential emails. All of Richard's illegal dealings, exposed in real time. "No, you don't know what you're doing." "Oh, I do," the Joker said softly. "You called me a clown. But you were the one pretending, hiding behind your money, your suits, your lies. I just took off your mask."
The faces on the screens erupted in shock, anger, betrayal. Richard dropped to his knees. "Please," he begged, "I'll give you anything. Just stop."
The Joker crouched down beside him, his painted face close enough to see the tremor in his eyes. "You already gave me what I wanted." "What's that?" The Joker leaned in, whispering, "Your pride." Then he stood and walked toward the exit. "You'll understand soon, Richard. Pain isn't punishment, it's perspective." The door swung open by itself, and he stepped through. The lights dimmed again. Richard scrambled to his feet, shouting, "Who are you?" The Joker paused in the doorway. "Someone you laughed at." The door closed behind him. By the time security broke in, Richard Vale was sitting alone on the floor, surrounded by broken glass and flickering screens. The video feeds were gone. His empire ruined. Later that night, a maintenance worker found a single playing card stuck in the elevator mirror. A Joker card. On the back it read, "Laughter is free, but dignity costs a fortune." And though no one saw him again, some swear that every so often, on late flights across the Atlantic, a strange man in a purple coat still hums a broken tune. sitting quietly in seat 2A. If you felt the chill in this story and want more dark emotional tales like this, subscribe now and join our growing family of storytellers. Every week, a new story, a new mind game, and another reason to never trust a smile.